separated the Eastern and the Western hemisphere actually dissolved, and a wave of democracy swept over large parts of the planet that hadn't experienced that before. Mm-hmm. Now, because of the speed up of time, this kind of a revolutionary time period will be compressed. But logically speaking, that we would have a parallel to that in this fall. I would say between 17th of July and, as you mentioned, 3rd of November of this fall. And then, what are the Berlin Walls that will fall? Well, that's still something we may think about, but I think the Berlin Walls that will fall are mental walls, but also walls between different, between people that are in different places in the social and religious hierarchies. So I can imagine that there will be a downfall of hierarchies, especially financial and religious, that have been sort of upholding Berlin Walls against the populace at large, if I may put it that way.
It makes a lot of sense. We can see the beginnings of that right now within the Catholic Church, for one example.
Yes.
With all of the information that's coming out about the pedophilia.
Yeah.
That's been going on for decades and decades, and apparently at the highest levels.
Yeah.
And then we see the demand for more clarity and transparency with the Federal Reserve, which is basically a banking cartel. And so there seems to be a push in the air to reveal or expose or to see the truth behind these institutions.
Yeah.
Now, what happened?
Yeah.
Yeah, I hope that's right.
Yeah.
Now, how do the days and nights relate to the various waves?
Well, you might say we are. There are basically 9 waves. And each of those is developing according to a rhythm of its own. And each of those 9 waves are developed by a sequential order of 13 energies, where you may call 7 of those days, and then there are 6 intermediate nights. In Mayan cosmology, there was the idea that there were 7 gods of creation. You might say these are the gods, if you like, that are ruling what we would call the days. When the Maya talked about gods, they are actually talking about what we in our modern perspective would talk about just as energies, really, I would say. So there are those, but we are in a particular place where we are coming to a close of one wave. We're coming close to the 7th day of the galactic underworld, or the 8th wave, if you like. But at the same time, we are heading towards the activation of a new wave with a higher frequency that develops on top of that 8th wave. And so here we're coming into a particular period of overlapping of the effects of these different waves. And it is when that overlap happens, when that times may become very revolutionary. And I'm not saying revolutionary in the sense of violent.
Right.
I'm saying revolutionary in the sense of the time period 1986 to 1992, when this whole wave of democracy swept the world and the Internet came into existence. The European Union was instituted, and several things like that. And another time period that is an exact parallel is basically the Renaissance, 1498 to 1617. And that's also a very revolutionary time period with completely new ways of thinking, connecting the different parts of the earth, a new art, a new architecture, a new perspective, and many other things. The early scientific revolution, these things came then, but it's not necessarily a violent change. True revolutions are not violent, because violence tends to detract from the power of the actually revolutionary events.
Right, and we've been wallowing in violence now for thousands of years. It seems it's time to raise our consciousness and move out of that barbaric behavior.
Yes. Yes.
So now what you're talking about, this period between 1986 and 92, which correlates to the coming period, you're referring now, that's from July 17th to November 3rd?
That's what I would say, yes.
So we're in that right now.
Excuse me?
So we're pretty much, we will be moving into that period, because we're in June right now.
Yes, we will be moving into that. That's what I
think I had a time warp there for a moment.
Yeah.
And then November 3rd, we move, after that, we move into the 7th day, is that right?
That's right.
Okay. And then that lasts from when to when?
Well, it's activated November 3rd, and then it will end at the same time that I think all of these different wave movements will be coming to their completion, October 28, 2011.
Now, you're bringing up a very interesting point, and one that I think is important for people to listen to and understand, because you're one of the few people that has calculated the calendar to actually come to an end on October 28th, 2011, and not December 21st of 2012.
Yeah.
Why is that such an important thing to know, a piece of information, and how did you arrive at that?
Yeah. Okay. Well, I think there are many things to say around this particular issue. The first thing is that we've always gotten used to this idea that we're languaging it as saying that the calendar is coming to an end. And superficially it might seem so. Most people are just focusing on one of the 9 waves, the so-called long count. And that, it may say that there is no continuation beyond a certain point. But if you look upon the 9 waves more like a pyramidal structure, because I'm convinced that the pyramids, the 9-storied pyramids that are so central in different locations in the Maya lands, in Tikal, in Palenque, in Chichen Itza, and so forth, then you get another image. The image is rather one of the build-up of consciousness, that each of these 9 levels, each of these 9 waves are building on the lower stage, on the stage provided by the lower level. And so there is a build-up. And in my understanding, this is all then about thank you, the completion of a build-up. Or you could use another terminology that I'm using, and that is that the universe will, on October 28, 2011, attain its highest quantum state, its highest energy state, so to speak. And I think just by changing this language, I think you are removing some of the unnecessary fear around this. To me, I'm not expecting this great discontinuity that some people are imagining, so to speak, because my model with 9 levels, which is consistent with the ancient Mayan inscription on Tortuguero, that is a model that talks about climbing to the top. It's not an end we're looking at. We're talking about putting the last piece of the puzzle or the last piece of the building into a pyramid or something like that. And so that's the first thing. That I think people would like to focus on, should focus on. The second thing I'd like to say is that the people that are saying December 21, 2012, their model is essentially static. It's like to them, they have no points in between now and this end date that they are proposing. So what that means is that the only conclusion you would have to draw is that just to wait and see what happens, because they have nothing to say about how evolution is proceeding until that point. So it's becoming a very a focus on a particular date that is very alien to true Mayan calendar thought. I think that's really a fact. And really what has happened is that some people have heard about this December 21, 2012, and they've heard about John Jenkins' theory, which basically was made based on his studies on computer screens of astronomical modern software that the Maya had never available. And so, from this reason, and then if there is one particular date, well, then they think it must be a solstice, and so that's the only time they could think of, and so they are putting all that emphasis on this. Now, I don't want to polarize people just because of this scholarly difference between some of me and some other people and the majority of people that are saying December 21, 2012. What I do want to say, though, and this I really want to emphasize, is that it's disastrous if people are looking at a particular date as something that they should wait to see what happens. If they don't realize that it's a process that leads up there, and that this process is calling us to become co-creators in the evolution and the fulfillment of the cosmic plan. In that case, it's disastrous. Otherwise, if people are actively participating in the process of becoming co-creators, as far as I'm concerned, they may believe in any end date they like. But unfortunately the case is that most of these December 21 people, they are looking at something specific that will happen on that date, whether it's an asteroid, whether it's a galactic alignment, whether it's a pole shift or something like that usually cannot be seen as a good thing. This is what I want to emphasize. The scholarly debate is a little bit beside the point, but it's not beside the point if you're sitting there waiting to see what will happen, because then you will miss the chance of being part.
Absolutely. And I think that unfortunately, due to many of the different religions and their expectations about some kind of salvation or savior that's going to come down either in spaceships or as some kind of ascending or descending being and save everybody. So many people are waiting for that event on a certain date, and they're not taking responsibility for their lives.
Yeah.
And they're turning over their power and attention to some abstract idea which is not real.
Yeah.
So, and as I see it now, this is an evolutionary process that's reaching its culmination, which means